Hello everyone, welcome back to Cloud Institution. So the Cloud Institution is the best software training institutions. So today, as part of this Linux interview question series, so we're going to see another very important interview question, that is explain the kernel image in Linux. Okay, so what is the kernel image in Linux? Okay, we are going to see that the kernel image, right? So if you see the answer for the kernel image, okay, so the VM Linux file is the, as you can see here, this is the VM Linux is the file name. So the file in Linux is the compressed bootable Linux kernel image. Okay, so what is Linux kernel image in Linux? So if somebody asks, like, so the Linux VM Linux is the file is the Linux compressed bootable Linux kernel image. So it is the core of the operating system and gets loaded during the boot processing to initialize the computer. Okay, so the VM Linux is that the VM Linux Z is represents. Okay, so in the VM Linux indicates is compressed and usually with the gzip. Okay, so now it's called VM Linux. So VM Linux. Okay, let's go and see that where this VM Linux has been located and what are the what it is. Okay, so now if you want to go and see that VM Linux components, right? So let's go back and see the cd slash. Okay, so I'm already in root, right? If you can give slash and you can see all the root related so the information, right? So let's go back to the slash boot. Okay, you will be seeing, okay, so VM Linux command. Okay, so VM Linux is the kernel. Okay, so if somebody asks you what is the kernel name, or what is the kernel available in your Linux machine, so then you'll be explaining, like, VM Linux is the kernel name which has been the kernel which is available in your Linux. Okay, so if you can see ls-al, okay, you can see the complete the name of the VM Linux. So what is VM Linux? As we mentioned, so VM Linux is nothing but the kernel, okay, of your operating system. So when the kernel is, so when the kernel is there, so during the boot up, so it will be extracted, okay, so then it will be, then it will be loaded into your memory. Then from there, the system will be booting up. So this is what this is called VM Linux. So without this VM Linux, the system will not be able to boot. Okay, so this is what something which you have to know about this particular interview question. Okay, so the question is going to be, what's the question? The question is going to be explain the kernel image in Linux. So the answer is going to be the VM Linux file is the kernel image. Okay, so the kernel image, the file, the Linux compressed bootable Linux kernel image. Okay, it's the core of the operating system and gets loaded during the boot process and then initialize the computer. Okay, so the Z represents the compressed with the gzip. Okay, so this is what the answer for this particular question. Okay, so hope you understand this question. Okay, so hope you like this video on this interview series on Linux. So if you like this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and we're going to see you again in the next video on another interview question. Okay, thank you guys and stay tuned.